Like, your sissy cut your oranges?
Parent Shantae Vaughn spent the winter holiday break getting 2 of her 3 daughters settled into a new apartment in a new community. Vaughn became so frustrated with the operations of the St. Louis Public Schools, she moved her family out of the city into Normandy. Her exasperation with SLPS came to a head when school bus service was disrupted for weeks at the start of the 2024-25 school year.
The beginning of the school year was a hot mess. My daughter was walking to school in the morning, or I would take her to school in the morning. I would have to leave work early and go get her in the evening. I was dropping off friends of hers, like...
The disruption in transportation was fallout after the primary bus vendor for the St. Louis Public Schools, Missouri Central School Bus, canceled its contract in the spring of 2024. A nationwide driver shortage and other labor issues prompted the move. Despite efforts to fill the gaps with minivan shuttles, smaller vendors, and for high school students, metro buses, Vaughn didn't see any improvement on her end.
And then my daughter actually has an IEP. And when you have an
IEP stands for?
An individualized educational plan. That's what they have for special education students when they have a diagnosed learning or physical disability. And typically, they have transportation worked into those IEPs that the district is required to provide based on whatever their needs are. So if your child is in a wheelchair, they have to provide wheelchair-accessible transportation for your kid to come to school and so forth. So for my child to not have any transportation, it's a violation of, her IEP. So my final straw with saying, okay, we're going to move to the county and put you in the county school.
St. Louis Post-Dispatch education reporter Blythe Bernhardt has been uncovering the district's challenges for years. She saw warning signs of management shortcomings and worse months before the bus debacle.
It started last spring because I follow the district very closely and either attend or watch all of the school board meetings, and we started seeing consultants giving the presentations during the meetings, which is unusual. Typically, the head of a department will give a presentation on whatever it is, human resources, transportation, academics, any of the departments in the school district. So we started seeing a lot of consultants from out of state. So we started paying attention to that because that means the district is paying some outside firm, some third party to come in and to do some of the work that it would typically be done in-house.
The transportation crisis was one factor contributing to a broader dysfunction in district operations. The SLPS Board of Education eventually pointed the finger at then Superintendent Keisha Scarlett. She was hired in 2023 and fired after 1 year on the job. The board engaged an independent firm to audit Scarlett's hiring practices and credit card usage. The report contained a litany of possible and flagrant violations of board policies, from credit card expenditures for self-care to unauthorized retroactive pay increases for officials whose very hirings bypass the board approval process.
There were a bunch of new hires around that time, March, April, May, and we started noticing that most of them were coming from Seattle, which is where the superintendent at the time, Keisha Scarlett, had come from. And so there were all these connections to Keisha Scarlett, and there were a couple married couples. There were 2 married couples who were both hired, and so that obviously is unusual.
So you say you met Keisha Scarlett?
Yes.
What did you think when the reports started coming out about the way she was managing some of the district's money?
The cronyism, all of that, I think a lot of that was allowed to happen because she had no investment in this community. You have no ties to this community. It's a job for you. So when you operate like that, that's exactly what you get.
In response to the audit, all 21 district-issued credit cards were suspended until stronger oversight protections could be put into place. The board has hired an internal audit and compliance director, and other recommended changes are reportedly in the works. And St. Louis voters will soon decide some changes in board membership. There's a field of 12 candidates running in the April 8th election for the Board of Education, including President Tony Cousins, whose term is expiring. The other candidates are Crystal Barnett, founder and CEO of a nonprofit that helps parents advocate for their students. Tavon Brooks, a real estate agent who's involved with a nonprofit addressing issues surrounding poverty. Karen Collins Adams, head of St. Louis University's Rising Teachers Program and wife of former SLPS Superintendent Kelvin Adams. Zach Davis is a teacher at Cardinal Ritter College Prep High School. Alisa A.J. Foster is an alum of SLPS and the University of Missouri-Columbia. She works at a nonprofit focused on providing students digital equity. David Jackson owns a construction services company and is a former school board member. Brian Marston is an SLPS parent and works at Washington University School of Medicine as Director of Web Technical Strategy. Robert Mason is CEO of a real estate development company. William Bill Monroe is a former school board member and retired police officer. Terry Powers is a former Democratic committee member for the 24th Ward. And Andre Walker is a financial advisor. For weeks, 9 PBS made repeated requests for interviews with Board of Education President Tony Cousins and Vice President Matt Davis. Finally, we went to the January 14th school board meeting held at Yateman Liddell Preparatory Middle School.
Good evening, everyone.
The meeting was fairly routine until board member Sadie Weiss suddenly announced her resignation. She questioned the ethics of some of her colleagues and their apparent lack of concern over credit card expenditures.
I can no longer serve on a board in good conscience that isn't acting ethically and upholding our responsibility to the public to thoroughly evaluate and report on the district's mismanagement of funds.
Sadie Weiss became the third member to leave this board. The terms of Natalie Vowell and Vice President Matt Davis expire in April, and both announced via social media they would not seek re-election. Davis had a message for the 12 candidates running for what are now 4 board seats.
God bless you. Good luck. I hope you have a clue of what you're going to face when you get here. And it's not dysfunction. I mean, I've always said that you serve on a school board, you volunteer for a job with 6 other people that you would not have picked to work on this very complex problem, and they wouldn't have picked you, but you got to figure it out.
Everything we've done has been clearly transparent as transparent can be.
President Tony Cousins defended the credit card charges as being mostly for professional development.
You can say what you want to say, but we're turning this district around in a good way. So spin the story, tell the story, attack us, do whatever you want to do. But I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. And we're going to put it right there.
We did it!
Good job.
Shantae Vaughn became ineligible to vote for SLPS school board candidates when she moved her family to Normandy. But that doesn't stop her from having a strong opinion about what the current board should do.
You all need to step down. We need a new board.
Regardless of the outcome of the April election, the current iteration of the St. Louis Public Schools Board of Education will be history. The questions are, will the changes mark a turning point for the district? And will the changes benefit students? Blythe Bernhard told us more people should see what's happening in their neighborhood schools. Institutions, she says, are underrated.
These are bright, colorful, happy, joyful spaces. And so when you visit the schools, you might have some stereotypes in your head, but you'll see that kids are kids, teachers are teachers, and I believe there are great things happening in every classroom, in every school, in every district. And part of my job is to find those things as well and to tell those stories. And so I think the best thing you can do is talk to your neighbors, visit the schools. I don't think it's a lost cause. We'll say that.